Look at the directions. You see what I did over here? All trig functions can be written in terms of a sine or a cosine. Yeah. Tan is sine over cosine. Cotan is cosine over sine. Gave you these yesterday. Cosecant's 1 over sine, right? Secant's 1 over cosine. Do you see how these are all sines and cosines here? So all these trig functions can be written in terms of sines and cosines. So some of these first ones are going to be easy. If I said to you, write each expression in terms of sine and cosine. There's no parentheses or anything here. I'll get to that in a minute. What are you going to replace tan of theta with? Now, it's on the board behind me. I just pointed it out. What's tan of theta in terms of sines and cosines? Now, just use the identities. You've got to get good at using the identities. Rob. So the minus sign comes down. The tan of theta, you would say, is sine of theta over cosine of theta, and then times cosine of theta. And you see all you did is made a substitution. These first few are going to be pretty simple. All right, fellas, listen to me. I mean, most of you I taught 2 years ago in freshman algebra. If I didn't, you had freshman algebra someplace. All freshman algebra you learned 2 years ago, all those things you learned, they all still work. The difference is you're going to do it with functions. It ain't just going to be x's and y's. It's going to be like sine of x or cosine of x or tan of x. So if I simplify that, now this one's pretty easy. You would simply do what? Now come on, this first one's pretty simple. All you do today, get you used to doing this. Yeah. Those would cross out because that's over 1. And you're left with that. You're done. That was an easy one. I'm just going to start working my way over to get you used to doing this. Look at example 2. Change to sines and cosines. What's secant of theta equal in terms of a sine or a cosine? Again, that's why I wrote these on the board behind me. You had all this from yesterday. Brandon?
1 over cosine.
Secant is 1 over cosine, and you would have to write that down, over, what's cosecant? You're just converting. Today's class is about converting to sines and cosines. Now, I'm going to do more stuff tomorrow also. What's cosecant? Come on, just use the identities. Once you get good at using the identities, it ain't going to be that hard. Jack. 1 over sine. Now, in algebra, when you had a fraction divided by a fraction, didn't you take the fraction on top, multiply by the reciprocal? Isn't that what you did? Same thing here. Take the fraction on the top, multiply by. Rules from algebra still work. You're going to hear me say that like every day. Howard.
The bottom reciprocal?
What's the reciprocal of 1 over sine?
Sine of theta over 1.
Sine of theta over 1. That's right. Now, I'll put the over 1. You don't necessarily have to show me that. Now, how do you multiply fractions? My God, you learned that back in 5th grade. So you're going to do it with trig functions. What's the one fraction going to be there? Go ahead, multiply the 2 fractions. See, come on, these first ones are kind of easy, you guys. Just do all the stuff you already know, but do it on the trig. Jimmy. Say it again? Now first use everything that's here. Sine of theta over the cosine of theta. Y'all see that? Now, can you give that answer in a simpler form using something you already know? Again, it's behind me. Can sine of theta over cosine of theta be expressed simpler? Adam. Those first couple were kind of simple here. You with me? Example 3. This is what the homework's going to be. All right, watch this one. 1 minus cosine squared of theta over 1 plus tan squared of theta. Now, please, give me your attention here. When you see squares like that, now I don't have, well, I guess I could put them up here. Remember the three Pythagorean identities from yesterday? Sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. 1 plus tan squared equals secant squared. 1 plus cotan squared equals cosecant squared. Trust me. Remember I told you that first one you're going to see a ton? And remember there were two alternate forms? So my first question is, what's the numerator equal? This is from yesterday. It's right here. I had it on the board. Right.
Sine squared.
Do you understand? You got to ask me a question. Do you all understand that 1 minus cosine squared is sine squared? That was one of those alternate forms. What's the denominator equal? That was from yesterday. You got to know your identities. If you do, this is not going to be that bad for you. Tim, 1 plus tan squared was secant squared. Okay, now look what you got right now. Now look at the directions. Convert. And when I say convert, right, each experiment, I'm going to say convert the sines and cosines. If you see something that's not a sine or cosine, convert it. So, this comes down. What's secant squared equal in terms of a sine or a cosine? Again, there they are. They're all here behind me.
1 over cosine squared.
Okay, did you hear that? Secant of theta is 1 over cosine. Well, secant squared is 1 over cosine squared. Those reciprocals work with exponents too. So secant squared is 1 over cosine squared. Now, do your algebra. Divide by fraction means to multiply by the reciprocal. So what's going to come after that sine squared? Dividing by a fraction means to multiply by the reciprocal. Ethan? Now, come on, let's see how smart you are here. Is there anything you can do with that using any of the identities that you know? I need one of you to tell me. Is there something you can do to that to make it simpler using the identities that you already know? What do you think? Do you have something that you could use with what it says there? That doesn't say sine squared plus cosine squared. If that's sine squared plus cosine squared, what would you say the answer is then?
1.
Would it equal 1? It's not what it says. It says sine squared times cosine squared. What do you think?
Divide?
What do you mean?
Could you put cosine below sine?
But you'd be changing the problem. You have to work for C there. Come on. I need one of you to tell me one thing here. I'm asking you, can you do anything with that? That's all I'm asking you. Using stuff I've given you. Howard.
You can get rid of this, you can put it in a radical, get rid of the
But that's not what you have there. That's not what the problem is. There is no square root there. If you did, you'd be changing the problem. Jack, what are you going to say?
I was going to say divided by 10.
Say it again?
Divided by 10.
You'd be changing the problem. You got to tell me you'd be changing the problem. All I'm asking you is, can you simplify what you see? I'm not telling you to change the problem. No. This is what I was waiting for somebody to say. Look, you're done. I can't go farther. I can't do anything to it. Do you understand? There's nothing I can do to that. Nothing over here is going to work. Lang, you're shaking your head like you don't like that.
No.
I'm just glad you're here, brother.
Yeah. It's a long couple of weeks.
Okay.
So it's good to be back.
Example 4. Here, write this down. Tan squared doesn't always have to be theta. You know, this angle could be anything. So let me just change this up a little bit. There. Now look at that. Now this one has parentheses in it. So all the stuff from algebra works. Now Come on, you guys. I need somebody to be really smart here. Honors class. What would you do if you saw a problem written like that? I mean, take those tans and cotans right out of there. What would you do? You're going to do the same thing here. If that just said x times the quantity of 1 plus x squared, what would you do? Oh my God, that's an easy question. Yeah.
I just get rid of the x's. Or I distribute.
That's what I wanted to do. You distribute, right? So distribute. Now, be smart here. Tan squared times 1 is tan squared. Plus, now you got to use your head here. If you take tan squared of an angle and multiply it by a cotan squared of the very same angle, what's the answer going to be? Raise your hand. You guys. If you take a tan angle times a cotan of an angle, what's the answer always going to be if it's the same angle? Which it is. Jimmy,
1.
do you understand that? Did you hear one? Do you understand that? They're reciprocals, right? If you take a cosecant times a sine, won't the answer be a 1? Because they're reciprocals? See what I'm saying? If you take a cosine times a secant, the answer will be 1. So a tan squared times a cotan squared is 1. Now my God is probably jumping off the board at you. What's tan squared of x plus 1 equal? Identities, identities, identities. You've got to get these identities in your head. You're going to be working with them all Christmas break. Jimmy. Secant squared. Remember what the directions said here? What if I said to you, I want that written in terms of sines or cosines? What would you say? What would you say? Sako.
1 over secant squared.
No. Reciprocal of secant is cosine, right? So 1 over cosine squared. Number 5.